And then the final slide is just showing you that you don't have to always rely on two dimensions. Like any other kind of electronic files, you can layer these with changing your filters and your sort criteria and that sort of thing. So, in this case, you may take a particular problem and you start with your risk access 1 and risk access 2, and then you take some subset of that, and then you would do a third and fourth risk proxy. Then you may take some subset of that and do a fourth and fifth risk proxy. And the idea is that you want to not only explain all of this activity, for the idea of risk analytics, but you want to be able to explain it to the stakeholders. So you say, this is how I ran through it, and this is why I think this stuff is benign. And you do it in such a manner that your stakeholder doesn't have to rely on your expertise. They can say, well, that criteria sounds reasonable to me. Or they might challenge you a little bit and say, you know what, I understand why you did that, but I think you've got a blind spot. Have you thought about X, Y, and Z? And maybe they're right and you go and change it, or maybe you've got a response to it. But the key in any type of heat mapping is what you do is you give the audience the ability to replay your thought process with the variables that you're using, and they can either agree or disagree with them. They just don't have to rely on you properly administrating a black box that they have no real awareness of what's in that black box.
Right. Such a great point, Tom. Thanks.
So that's kind of in a very summary fashion, kind of how you deal with heat maps. Once again, we deal with the customers. We want to explain 100% of their customer base. We do that through the top transactors, distributed, that sort of thing. And then we also want to use heat maps to look at broader information, usually at a product or geography level. And we're more issue-based and typologies where you're designing your risk proxies and you're looking at a broader data set. And when you overlay the two of those, you generally have a pretty good idea of what's benign and what is a problem. And it's a lot harder for a money launderer to try to evade this type of stuff because number one, I'm not sure they're really aware of what we're doing. But number two, since you're looking at 100% of the population and you're comparing it across similar populations elsewhere, it'd be very difficult for them to manage conversations and persuade you to go away because their explanations probably just don't make any sense.
Right, exactly. And I think that, from all the points that, you've shared and all the discussion that we've had, one thing is so clear that, I mean, the banks, especially the respondent banks, they really need to focus on the total investment, I mean, holistically on developing these tools and even the background or the logistics even before developing these tools is so important. And once they build it, once they have it, it's so much easier, as you pointed out a couple of times, that it's so much easier when you understand who you are dealing with, because there's so many people hiding in the shadow, as you put it so nicely.
Well, I agree with you 100%, but I guess I would add that you don't have to be super sophisticated to do this.
Absolutely.
Most of this stuff was done by one or two people or three people in either JP Morgan or Wells Fargo, at an Excel level. And, we brought some subject matter expertise to the table, but that's easily translatable to other people. So you're right. It's definitely a change of mindset. And it does take some sponsorship to do that, but it's a lot easier to do than to replace your legacy technology systems or that sort of thing, because you can do it off to the side parallel to that while you're refining it. And it can be done by one or two or three people, you know, just in the normal course of all their workload. You don't have to, have them working full time on it. So, it's actually, I'd say the best of all worlds from someone who's trying to manage change, because you have a low investment of time. Uh, you're not disrupting your existing systems. You can have laboratories where you're doing it. And then once you get the design down, then you can very quickly make it into a sustainable thing with very incremental additional cost. So I agree
Excellent.
with 100% what you're saying, with the exception that I wouldn't I wouldn't overestimate the burdens on the design stage. I think that any bank can start this process. They might need someone to help guide them, or, on the first time or two. But once someone, kind of gets used to the techniques, they can pick it up and do it on their own. Just like, if you're trying to teach someone a math class, they need someone maybe to teach them,
Yes.
the approach in the beginning, but then, very quickly they can start doing their own math problems.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's more creative thinking and the will than the very developed technology that is needed, I guess, because
That's
I think,
exactly right.
yeah, exactly. So that's a great point, great takeaway point. So thank you so much, Tom, for today's discussion. I think this was absolutely very significant, for which fits into the whole decision point that we are discussing. Thanks.
Happy to help.